I think Frank is one of the best strategists that I've come across, and it may be the best overall in terms of energy efficiency. Thinking about, do you think he has the best cardio? Do you think his cardio is better than the little guys? No. Do you think my cardio is better than like little? No. So if the bigger you are, the more you have to think about energy efficiency and how you're moving your body. And what opportunities you have to, particularly in grappling, but in striking as well, what opportunities you have to make your opponent burn energy while being, calm and composed yourself. And I think Frank's really thought through a lot of systems. You started training when you were 4? How old were you?
Yeah, it was my first lesson. My father actually owned a Kempo karate school. Yeah. So there's pictures of me in a baby carrier watching him hit the bag,
So our birthdays are 3 weeks apart, and we're both 45 right now. And 40 years later, 41 years later, you start to see some patterns. So I think Frank's done an amazing job of, first of all, he's very enthusiastic, he's like sincerely enthusiastic about that thing and still thinking about it and still evolving and developing. Some people retire and they're just like, I don't even like fighting. Like, that's how I made money. That's what I did for money, but I don't even like that. And, they tend to get fat and do not much. But, Frank has kept his brain active. His son is a state wrestling champ. I believe your daughter was also a state wrestling champ.
And national.
A national wrestling champ. So he's coaching his children. He coaches me. He coaches a few other, big name people. I don't need to say their names unless you want to. But, it's not like he wants to run a gym or day to day or whatever, but his brain's very engaged for, his own fascination and to help his children and a few people that he's gracious with his time to work with. So I learned a lot of things from Frank. And then when other people showed me things and I'm like, oh, that works really good with a 200-pound guy. And then I store that away in the back of my head. I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can make that work with him, And then we'll talk through the mechanics of things. And this is maybe a fault of mine, but in training, I tend not to be like, oh, I'm going to try to, get one over on my next week's coach or something. I tend to be like, oh, last week I was working on this thing, and and kind of talk through the mechanics and like, this is what it feels like. This is, what are your thoughts about that? Where does that break down, or where do we go from there in some other sequence or whatnot? So I probably should do less of that, and especially as my skills get better, I should get them once or twice and then talk about it. But it's not. I really don't have that type of personality. Like I'm trying to get over on my coach or get over on somebody that helped me a lot either. I don't really have that type of personality. So, but at least with a couple people, I should do that. But the point I meant to make is, when something works with a smaller person, I'm like, oh, I think that's very effective. I could do that with other heavyweight guys or with anybody. I tend to go talk to him about it and try to test that with him. So, hey, what do you see here? What can we do better? Where does this fall apart, et cetera, et cetera. And he really has a great web of systematic thinking about, striking, various art forms of striking, of traditional boxing or karate or MMA striking and jiu-jitsu and wrestling and so on. And it's done quite a fascinating and amazing job tying those pieces together. So I learned a lot of things from him, and that's why I asked him to be here and show you folks a few things. But yeah, how do you think about that when you're building something new in that web or when you're testing something?
Yeah, I actually have it in my mind. I think about people sometimes get obsessed with how to do a technique, and then I sit there and realize that when you watch, that's the advantage of having the sport of MMA, is we get to see fighting in application, right? Is that sometimes I see guys that don't necessarily have the cleanest technique in the world with very efficient knockouts or takedowns or submissions or whatever the case may be, because applying the move seems to be important, if not more important than maybe the aspects of how technically perfect it is. I mean, I remember when I watched Chuck Liddell, I don't think it's a secret that his striking is not technically pretty. You know what I mean? Some of the things he does, I've seen other guys that are, struggle, well, this angle or this shot, I'm like, but man, he fucking catches people, he knocks them out, he applies it, he's able to get his fist to your face, and has a system of how he's thinking about doing it. And so I think application is super important. And I think, okay, what are the limitations to my application? Why do I sometimes fail? Why would I hesitate? If my coach is calling out a move, hey, do this. I'm like, what's keeping me from doing it? Like, well, maybe not understanding the move, not seeing where it's coming from. I find that sometimes it's because I don't want the consequences of the move. People don't realize that. You sit there and you look at somebody and they take a shot, they go takedown. They shoot on the person, they end up in a guillotine, fighting for their life. They finally pull their head out, get back up to their feet, and then the coach goes, shoot! In your brain, you're like, nah, you know what I mean? Like, you're like, I don't know if you failed to notice, the last time I shot, I almost got my head ripped off, you know what I mean? So like, so that's why it's almost like, the ringing the bell for the dog, the Parvo effect, where it's like, dude, you're training the guy that like the reaction was not there. So I thought about that when I break down my techniques. I'm like, all right, well, I want to do techniques that I feel that I'll be able to fire off or maneuvers that have, a high return of investment or low risk. So that's why I broke them down to A, B, C, and D. I actually categorized in my mind. An A technique means if I apply the technique, the fight's over with. You know what I mean? I'm going to win. I'm either choking you unconscious or you fall asleep in some way, whether or not, Then a B technique to me means I apply the technique, the maneuver, and I end up in a superior position. Oh, I'll do those all day long, I hit a move, I'm in the mount now, Did you win the fight? Well, no, but I got a great, I'm in the mount, I got your back, or whatever the case may be. A C technique to me then starts drawing to the less desirable ones, where it's like, okay, it's neutral. All right. Sometimes that's not a bad idea. Like if you got me mounted and I end up, hip thrusting and I put my shin butterfly and then throw over an X guard and now you flee from the foot lock and we end up neutral. No, I was in a bad position. We just went neutral. That's actually was a positive. If I'm in a positive position, I might not want to do a move that ends up neutral, or maybe I will, kind of, but now I'm starting to do that like, now I'm guessing, so I have my C moves, A D move means I go for it and I end up in a bad position, then I just avoid that altogether, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, well, if I do this and I don't succeed, I'm going to be in a bad spot. Let's not do that, So I try to eliminate those maneuvers altogether. And if I do have moves that end up in a bad spot, I remember in a fight against Wes Sims, the first time I went armbar, I went more traditional jiu-jitsu style. From the mount armbar, went to my back, pulled back, and I didn't do proper leg position, so I made errors that he was able to roll on top and drive up. So in my mind, I was like, oh, that was shit. I went from being in a mounted position to now in my back, So now I do arm bars, but now I go S mount. So I sit there, I hit the arm bar. If I miss it, I'm back in mount. So now I brought the arm bar back because if I hadn't have done that, my brain would have never went for arm bars anymore because my brain would have went, well, you go for an arm bar, the guy rolls on top of you, now you're getting elbows in the face. That's not a good trade-off. So now you're screaming arm bar and I'm looking at you like, no, you know what I mean? Like I'm like the pitcher and the catcher's calling the pitch. I'm like, no, I don't like that one, buddy. Last time it went for yard, And so, that's how I break things down. Again, it's like, okay, what am I doing? And I find that, again, like in life, if I have something I can fire off and the consequences are nil, yeah, I'll do it all day long. It's like, hey, you want to make a bet? Yeah. Well, if it doesn't go through, I'll give you your money back. Yeah, why not? Okay, well, works for me. There's no endangerment for me. There's no risk. So I want to fight that way. So that way I'm free to flow. Otherwise, you can't help it. The psychology of consequences will edge their way into your brain. I don't care who you are. If the last time you shot on this guy, he needs you in the stomach really, really hard, and you're probably going to hesitate to shoot another double without adjusting it, And if you did, I'd almost kind of question your self-preservation. I'm like, dude, what's wrong with you?
A person that comes to mind when you mention this is Gordon Ryan, and who knows who Gordon is? Yeah. So most of you. So yeah, Gordon's the best grappler in the world ever, and he was over 10 days ago. He was training with less than that. 8 days ago he left. I have most of the most talented people at UFC are over there training with me. Most of them are MMA fighters. As I'm not trying to learn just jiu-jitsu. I want to be very good at fighting in general. Gordon's very specialized in grappling. Probably can throw a 1-2, but he's very specialized in grappling. And the map in his head for various positions in grappling, this is a person that's probably 150, 155 IQ. Spent 12 or so years very focused on this thing. His coach is fantastic, John Danaher. Danaher's probably also got 150, 155 IQ. And they've thought about this stuff a bit at a very high level. When you move around with Gordon, literally, while he's narrowing your options, Well, he's physically narrowing your options. He's giving you a narrative of, like, from this position, you could only do this or this. Most guys would do this, but if you do that, then, and he's telling you the consequences of what's going to happen next and kind of letting you choose. And then you do the next thing, and then he's telling you, from here, you have very few options remaining. I could do this or this or this to you. It's going to be very hard for you to escape from here. And you try to escape. And you're like, well, all right, I guess choke me this way then. And that's kind of what it is, Like, and you could joke about that, and I am joking about that. I could do pretty damn well. I don't know, maybe I'd ask Frank to give an assessment, but as a loose assessment, I'd say I do pretty damn well against any of the UFC guys now in grappling. I have, again, many of the top UFC guys were over there grappling with me. So I'm at least able to defend myself with most anybody from UFC. And do pretty damn well at some of them. And I mean,
you're at a point now where I told you the last time we were messing around at your house, if you don't go on offense at all, if you just wanted to play defense, I can't get you. You know what I mean? Like, we're at that level now where I'm like, look, you're going to have to attack me so that I can counter and maybe catch a hole that way. Same way I'm going to get caught now. If I just play defense with somebody, no one's going to catch me. But you're at that level now. To where it's like, bro, if you just don't want me to tap you, I can't. You know what I mean? Then there's not a lot of people that are in that category, but he's one of them.
Yeah, and Gordon's a person, again, is the best person and the best grappler in the world ever. There's nobody who's a better grappler than Gordon.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And in that niche, that doesn't mean he's the best fighter in the world ever, but he's the best grappler in the world ever. And he's still going to f you up if he could last a minute in a real tussle together. You feel pretty proud if you could last a minute. Most people could not. But the main point, reflecting back on what you said, is just the systematic thinking involved. Like, there are predictable patterns. Over time you'll burn a lot of those patterns in your head in any context, in business, in grappling, or strike. Frank's happened to do that as a generalist in many areas. But he'd do really goddamn good against any specialist in any of those areas, in their domain. And in a real fight, there's very few people in the world that Frank's not going to give them a very bad day. So it's the way that he's thought about things are very meticulous and detailed, and he's pretty damn calm about it. Just kind of matter of fact and calm. That I don't see you get too excited about anything. Just like, oh, yeah, I didn't like that. Oh, we're going to do this now. So you shouldn't have done that. Now there's consequences. It's kind of I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that's kind of the way that I perceive your brain is working, that you're very calm about things, very just focused on the goal. I
try to make it to where I'm no different as far as whether you mount me or I mount you. If you have my back, I'm not any more excited or happy. I try to remove emotion from situations because emotion makes me fatigue. You sit there, oh, I got the mount. Well, then you lose the mount, you get upset. I'm in a good position. Fuck, now you're not. Like that, to me, it's just a math problem everywhere. It's like, oh, I'm in this position. Okay, well, what's the objective here? What do I got to do? Where do I got to go? I don't really want to have time to think about it on an emotional level, to add emotion to it. It clouds the mind. It distracts you. I try to be, as much as possible, I want to be like a hitman. It's like, all right, where are you at? I'm here. Well, I got to do this. Okay, this position. I'm going to do this stimulation. I'm going to see this reaction, and just, whether I'm losing, winning, it doesn't matter. I don't even think about that. It's just wherever you are. It's just a math problem.
You watch this video all the way through, and that tells me you're dedicated to learning more and earning far above average outcomes in your life. Congratulations for that. But now it's time to take action. If you could have earned those results by yourself, you would have done it already. My head coach has opened up a few spots on his high-demand calendar for an in-person, one-on-one strategy session to help you. On this call, we'll give you the pragmatic advice that you can implement tonight to get laser-focused on the right metrics and leave mediocrity far behind in your past. Click that link right now in the description below and apply for your call immediately. Do it now.